Hi guys, it's Sam back again. Sorry to leave you hanging for so long with the video. As you know, that last one was just for research purposes, really, to see whether or not I should create these videos for you. Um, I am going to. Okay, the response I got was fantastic. I was astonished. I've had private messages on a global scale here, people from around the world telling me they would like me to do these videos. So thank you so much for your support you've given me. And you're going to be aiding in changing people's lives here, because even if this video only helps one person, I'm hoping it will help you all. But say it only helps that one person, that's a massive difference to that person's life. And that's not just down to me and down to them, that's down to you folks for giving me that support to make these videos for you. So thank you so much again. Now I've had a think, as it is going to take me a bit of time to get everything down on paper, to then go through the steps with you by these videos, I still wanted to do something for you today. Now, one of your big steps is going to be that you have to open up to someone. Alright, it doesn't have to be to me, okay, but at some stage you're going to have to find someone you can trust to speak to. Alright, now I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to sit there and go, you know what, you have to open up. Alright, so I've decided I'm going to open up to you folks out there. So I'm going to tell you a story of my life. It's going to be a little bit choppy, okay, because if I actually went through everything in detail, you'd probably be asleep by the end of this video. Alright, so bear with me that I am going to be skipping across a few years at a time, a few months at a time. Alright, but I'm going to do my best for you. If you do have any questions, hit me a private message at the end. It's not a problem at all. Alright, so here we have my story. So, my young childhood, I was pretty good. I lived with my mum, my dad, and I've got two older brothers. My eldest brother, he moved away to go to uni, and eventually moved countries for his job. He did that when I was quite young, so I was able to adapt to that pretty quickly. But my earliest memory, I think, of truly feeling alone, I was still quite young. My middle brother, he then moved away to uni. He didn't have any intentions of coming back to Plymouth unless it's just to visit. We were quite close when I was small. He'd always find time to keep me entertained, take me down the shops, teach me to play his computer games, and when he left, I was quite heartbroken by that. And I think most kids in that situation would be. And I never really thought about it strongly till many years later, how alone I did really feel, at the time. I still had my parents, they were great. But it wasn't the same without, my big brother there for me. But then anyway, as time went on, I grew to adapt to that as well. I made good friends. Inside and outside of school. This is primary school we're talking about, by the way. And I made good friends with my next door neighbours as well. And there was an older lad that lived across the road from me. Just so you know, folks, I'm not using any names within my videos, okay, for confidentiality reasons. We were very streetwise, we were always playing in the street. We would make things and try and sell them off to people, like 10p, 20p at a time. So we'd get some money for some sweets down the local shop. We'd do car washing, penny for the guy. We were always up to something. Practically anything that could put money in our pockets, or anything that was good fun, like all kids. As I got a bit older, my parents did separate. It wasn't a huge deal to me. I'm not saying that in a bad way, because I knew that although I moved out with my mum, I'm still going to go see my dad on a weekly basis. And it was quite exciting for me because my mum had found this really nice house. It had a nice garden. My bedroom was bigger. What kid doesn't want a bigger bedroom? Now, I'm not sure if a little while later, when I was about 12, 13, whether it was because I was becoming this teenager, or whether it was because my lifestyle had changed, quite a bit. But I started to feel very disconnected from the world. I had friends, I had my mum and dad, but things started to appear differently to me. The world began to feel wrong. especially in school. I started to be far more aware of my surroundings. I'd noticed how more mischievous kids would gain like massive praise for one good deed, and when someone like myself, who I was a bit of a goody two shoes, I'm not going to lie. Okay, I'd be good every day. Would I get praise? No. These bad people do one good thing, and they're suddenly getting everything. And it seemed wrong to me. Um, Now, the other thing that got to me was, I was at that age, I started to like girls. You know, um, they didn't really like me. Now, it was a typical thing. Teenage girls, they like a bit of a bad boy. I wasn't a bad boy, I was far from it. I was never getting into scraps, or anything like that. Um, but I didn't see it that way when I was younger, okay, because I was a bit disconnected. Um, and it bugged me. These guys were known for being bad, mistreating people, hurting people, cheating on their girlfriends, and so on. But they always got the girls. I couldn't comprehend this at the time in my head at all. I could not understand what was going on. Obviously now, I can see the reasons why, and I can see why I wouldn't get someone. I had such a lack of confidence. I was one of these kids, I'm not going to lie to you. I would blush if a girl I was talking to, well, sorry, I start again, a girl that I was attracted to would talk to me. I was one of them. Yes, I was one of them. All right, but that played on my mind. People would laugh at me. Oh, you've gone red. It was horrible. I know a lot of kids go through this, but when you're feeling very disconnected and you're thinking too strongly about things, this can be quite hurtful. Um, Now, I witnessed, growing up through these teenage years, people getting beaten up, punched, kicked, hit with things. I've even seen people get knocked out, chased around the place. I got chased quite a lot on routes home, and it wasn't very nice. I became more and more afraid of the world after that. I was never massively interested in the news, but when I would read it, as we all know, there's nothing ever good put in there. I was seeing only the bad sides of life. I became detached from believing that I could be happy, because I was a good guy, and the good guys always finish last, as I believed at the time. Eventually, though, this grew worse, and I became agoraphobic. I was afraid to walk out my own front door. I saw so many people as a threat. I was fortunate enough to have really close, supportive friends, friends that I've known, since I was in primary school. They would knock on my door, walk me to school, or walk me home. Now, I was only a 2-minute walk away from the school in this property that I was living in at the time. I couldn't face it alone. The times that I had to face it alone, I had to really think about it and run home, okay? Which would take less than a minute, probably, if I was running. But it was that scary for me at the time. And then, this sounds a little bit creepy, but bear with me, alright? I started to study people. I started looking into body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, seeing how the bad boys worked, seeing how the nice people worked, trying to figure out what was wrong here, what I was looking into wasn't right. I got quite good at it in the end, but the problem was, at the time, I was overthinking everything, and I had quite an imagination, so I was really looking into only the negative things about these people. I wasn't looking at the positive sides. I wasn't thinking about the fact that some of these horrible people, or I believed to be horrible at the time, may have come from broken homes, may have suffered abuse themselves. You don't think about those kind of things at that age. So I just could not understand what was going on. Now, this went on for a long period of time, folks. Okay, I was agoraphobic for years. This wasn't a short-term thing. I would think, what if I get attacked if I walk out my door? Or if I get ganged up on, I don't want to get hurt. I was afraid of getting hurt, emotionally and physically. Um, And then when I got to about 15, 16 years old, I discovered chat sites on the internet. Wow, I thought, a way I can talk to the ladies, all right, without worrying about blushing. You know, you can't blush over text, right? Text and font on your screen. Over time, my confidence grew chatting to these girls, So then we would start chatting via webcams because, we learnt in school and from my parents that, these people might not be who they say they are. So I wanted to make sure that these were, girls my age I'm talking to. So we would go on webcam on MSN. Yes, this is how old I now feel. MSN days, right? But it was great, and in time I met a few of these girls, had a few short-term relationships. Just so you know, though, I was still agoraphobic at the time. My friends would take me to meet these women. Okay, I would always make sure it was double dated. Either me and a friend would meet two girls, or I would meet a girl and have a friend with me, and or I'd have a couple with me, anything like that. And this wasn't because I was afraid of what they'd say to me. This was because I couldn't face walking to where, these public places where I'm going to meet them, generally in the city centre, and walking home. And I didn't want to tell these people that I've got this issue. It's embarrassing, as a teenage kid to be afraid of everything in the world. Anyway, time grew on, and I eventually found someone that I ended up in a long-term relationship with. I remember the day that I met her. A friend of mine again took me there. Stayed with me through that course. She had friends with her anyway, so it didn't seem too strange. And we hit it off. I decided I better open up to this girl. Things are getting a bit serious here. And I was lucky. She accepted me for who I was. She was supportive. She didn't have full understanding at the time of this, how severe it was, but she was there for me. And but that wasn't enough for me at the time because she would come to my house. I'm still a teenager. I'm still living with my mum. She would come round, and when it was time for her to go home, I would freeze. I couldn't walk her to that bus stop. Right now, this bus stop, folks, and this is no word of a lie here. My house, you walk one or two houses up, down a very short back lane, turn the corner, there's the bus stop. It would take no more than 30 or 40 seconds to get to this bus stop. Now, walking her there wasn't too much of an issue. I had someone with me. It was still scary, but I could do it. But it's knowing that I had to walk that short path home when she was on the bus that I couldn't face it. She understood. She understood, and I'm grateful for that. But I beat myself up something rotten. What kind of man, what kind of boyfriend am I who can't even walk his own girlfriend to the freaking bus stop so she can go home? It wasn't even late at night or anything like that. I just could not face doing it. So now we'll skip ahead a bit longer. Still in the relationship, it's going well. And it got to a stage where it was time for me to move out and get a job. So luckily, a friend got hold of me. He lived in a shared house with his partner, and I moved in with them. Great. I still had that support there. I was never going to be alone. Okay. When it came to finding a job, I signed up to the job centre. Friends would come and take me to and from the job centre. Okay, because this is all still going on. I had a temporary job for a while when I first moved into that property. Eventually, I got another job that I was in for a fair few years. People would walk me to and from work, but of course I was making money. Now, not a lot, but I was making money, and if there was no one available, I couldn't skip work. That's not my work ethic. That's not the way I was raised, no matter how afraid I was. So I would get taxis. Now, this is a lot of money. I've suddenly got responsibility, rent to pay, bills to pay, and I am taxiing to and from work when nobody can walk me. It takes a chunk out of your wage. So this, again, I'm going to be skipping a little bit more forward. Me and my partner at the time, we moved in together. A lovely place, quite far away from my friends though, but the bus stop was directly outside the door. So I could do it because my door would be unlocked, so I can just literally run inside if I was afraid. And as soon as that bus would pull up outside, that's when I lock the door or close it properly, hop straight on the bus. Getting home, it was literally across the road, and it was a little village. It was a lot less scary than where I was before. Um, and being in the city centre wasn't so bad for me because there were so many shops I could run and hide into. I made so many distractions and so many plans en route to coping mechanisms, basically, ones that actually ended up with a negative effect in the future. But it was working. Um, we did move again after that, to somewhere a bit more central to town. Again, it was taxis being walked to and from, so on and so forth. Time went on, when we got engaged, and then we decided to have an engagement party, an excuse to get family together. Really, it was good. And on the day of that engagement, we found out she was pregnant. Now, this was fantastic news to me. Okay, I'd always wanted to be a dad. I still had the what ifs going through my mind though. What if my child grows up to be like me? No one should suffer that. I don't want to raise a child and be a scaredy cat dad and have a scaredy cat child that's not going to be able to cope with life. That's no life. But you've got to do what you've got to do, and I decided to seek help. Um, it was a process where I'd have to wait to see a therapist. You go on a waiting list. I was referred to CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. Now, in the midst of everything going on here, and anyone that knows me, sorry if I've got this in the slight wrong order, but it's still the story, more or less. I just might get timescales a little bit off. One day I went to supermarket with my mum and her partner. My partner stayed at home. They went off to do their shopping, I went off to do mine. Normally I'd feel safe because I'm in that environment, I'm in a supermarket, there's lots of people around, it's unlikely something's going to happen. I got driven there and driven home, so I didn't have to do that walk on my own. And then it hit me, the first really intense panic attack that had ever felt at the time. Now, fortunate for me, I knew what was happening to me. I'd had very, very minor versions before, but this was big. My hands were like this, I was jumpy talking, my heart, I'll go into more details in it in a later video. I don't want to, go through everything now. It was one of the worst feelings I've ever felt. I had to ditch my shopping, sit in the car, found my mum, we talked it over. The problem with that was I then had anticipated the anxiety of the reoccurrence of a panic attack, and it got worse from there. I began having panic attacks in some weeks on a daily basis. I could have up to several in one day. And anyone that suffered them, knackered you can get afterwards. So I was spending every day exhausted, miserable, I'd become depressed. Not only now did I have like general anxieties, agoraphobia, depression, I had a panic disorder as well. Absolute nightmare, and everything just went so downhill. I'm going to skip ahead another year or so here. So we got married. Oh, sorry, it hasn't been quite a year or so from that point. I think I've skipped ahead a bit earlier. But all in all, I ended up getting married. I had a daughter, or she had the daughter, should I say? But it was absolutely great. I started, going into CBT therapy, and she was fantastic, this therapist. I'd had a few little counsellors before that did no good for me, drop-in sessions, but this woman was fantastic with me. She took her time with me, and she went through so many processes with me, and I learned so much. And I was on the road to recovery. Now, by the time my daughter was 2, I was feeling quite good about my life. I had, you know, become a much better person. My panic attacks were still happening quite a bit, but they had reduced. I was a lot more confident on the outside. I was walking to work. I still didn't really walk home very often, and I still got quite a few taxis. But on a good day, I could walk to work. It wasn't that far away, though, to be fair. I gained extra sessions in my therapy because I also suffered with OCD, another thing to add to the list. Now, as everything started feeling good, something else happened there. I'm just trying to think of how it came to be, but I started becoming a little bit paranoid. Well, I was already paranoid, but I mean in my relationship, a little bit jealous of a friend of mine. See, my partner at the time, she worked in the same place as him. They were spending a little bit more time together. There'd be times where on nights out, and or she'd be on nights out, sorry, and I know that he would be along. And I used to kick myself for it. You know, I thought, why am I being so stupid? You know, and then I thought, oh, you know, I'm going through these problems, making excuses as to why I would feel that way. But the bit I was gutted about was because I just started feeling good when then this kicked in. And then a little while later, still within the same year, my wife at the time, because we had been married by then, she told me she didn't love me anymore. Now, this was heartbreaking for me, obviously. You know, I just suddenly started feeling good, then bad, and then 10 times worse. I then had to move out. I stayed on a friend's sofa for a little while until I could find a property. But while I was staying at his, I realised my paranoia was actually true. I'd found out this gentleman that I'd known for most of my life was in fact dating her behind my back. So then I felt great. Not only of all this, I've lost the relationship with my wife, with my oldest friend, and now I have to move out and be away from my daughter. She's pretty good though, you know, it's never stopped me seeing my daughter, ever. You know, she's a fantastic mum, and I'll always praise her for that. But not living with my little girl was destroying for me. So then, eventually, I moved out with my friends, and I was in a shared house. Got to know the people pretty well, but I was crying myself to sleep for a few weeks over this all because it happened quite quickly, the being my friends to moving out into my shared place. And people started to talk to me, friends and family. Oh, you've lost so much weight, Sam. Oh, you're never happy. You know, we understand why, but you've got to pick yourself back up. You know, and I thought to myself, yeah, you know what? I've got to be a dad here. I am a dad. You know, that's more responsibility. I can't be thinking about, you know, all these negative things putting me down, you know, making me a grumpy dad, a sad dad. I don't want that. So I picked up all my old therapy notes. I was looking over them, you know, how can I improve myself even more? I don't want to be still having these general anxieties, these few panic attacks in a week, you know, I want it gone. I'd had enough. So I then started doing a bit more research. I looked into, not only looking into anxiety, panic attack disorders and things like that on the internet, started looking at teachings. As weird as it sounds, teachings like ancient sages. I would look at the Buddhist way of life. I even spoke to a few Buddhists. Now, I don't have the same beliefs, okay? My videos aren't going to be religious based, okay? I have nothing against those who are religious, but I'm not myself. But I did use a few of their quotes, a few of their teachings, and I adapted it all in, and I made my own set of methods. And I started putting them into my day-to-day life. And it started to work. And I tell you what, I remember this day, I remember it. I woke up one morning. Now, remember, I've still been crying myself to sleep here. I woke up one morning, sunshine through my window, and I smiled. I was happy. It felt strange. It felt weird. What's this? You know, I hadn't felt this in a while. It was amazing. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have a few setbacks, but I'm going to keep this on here. And I felt good. You know, I've started feeling really good. And it's going to be these methods that I'm going to be putting into these videos for you guys here. It's everything that I put together with a mixture of what I was taught, with my own teachings, with things that I found, and combined it all in. And I'm going to be teaching this same method to you, and I really hope it does work for you, because that's made me who I am now. Now let me compare, okay? I now work 5 days a week, different job to the one before, okay? I go to work on my own every day. I come home from work on my own every day. I haven't had a panic attack now in 2 years. In fact, it's nearly 3 years now. Just looked at the date on my computer there. Nearly 3 years. Not a single one from these methods that I've took. I have my off days where I feel low, where I feel a little bit anxious. I think everybody does. People that don't suffer from this on a daily basis do. I don't let it get me down anymore though. You know, I pick up those old bits of paper and I look at them, and I'm willing to show anybody them as well. Okay, so if any of you that live locally, you want to look through some of my old teachings, what was taught to me, see how bad I was, you know, all written on paper through my notes, you go ahead and do so. I have no problem with that. I'm back in a long-term relationship. I've been for a little while, quite a while, a few years, and it's great. Everything is going well for me. Now, I've got a good relationship with my ex-partner, my daughter's mum. I get on pretty well with my old friend there. And I really want these things to work for you guys. So I cannot wait to get these videos up. I'm not going to bore you any longer. But there is one thing that is important to me here. Should you wish to talk to me about anything that I mentioned to do with my past relationship, I don't want you to make anything public. Anything that can come across as insulting publicly, I will take off. Private message me if it's going to be something to help benefit you. If you're concerned that certain things are affecting your relationships, you want some advice on that, I don't mind discussing that with you privately. But I don't want anything coming up. You know, it's not fair on them too. Okay, she's a good mum and he's being a good role model for my daughter, you know, on the times that I'm not around. And I can't ask for more than that from a separated relationship. I see my little girl when I like, and she's got two, you know, people that love her to bits, that are looking after her. My partner also loves her to bits. You know, things couldn't really be better in that sort of situation for how things have gone. So it's really important to me to make sure that you don't put any kind of insult towards them whatsoever. Okay, but like I said, you want to chat to me about it privately, if it's going to benefit you, then yeah, I can do so. So I'm going to leave it there, folks. I'm hoping to make my next video to be what is a panic attack. I think it's quite important to go through that because a lot of people still don't quite understand what it is. You can look it up and read about it, but maybe if I explain it a bit better, we can go from there. And in the meantime, I'm still going to be sketching up how I'm going to do all these videos for you. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's been a bit of a long, drawn-out one, but I really appreciate your time. And yeah, have a good day, evening, or whatever it is when you're watching this video, folks. You take care now. Thank you. Bye.